Hey, 7th graders, Mr. Eller here with another one of your flipped lessons. Today we're going to be working on the Anti-Federalist versus the Federalist. This should be on page 68 of your interactive notebook, so we're going to take a peek at the board there. Real simple chart. Should look like this when you're done, except you're going to be filling in the blanks, not full-on notes. Here we go. Alright, pictures didn't save. That's okay, we can do it without the pictures. Who are the Federalists? So we're at the point now where we've created the Constitution, we've gone through, we've had our big compromises, and now we got to get it to the states and get it ratified. So this is going to really start to form pretty much our first two political parties of the United States and the United States history. The first one are going to be called the Federalists. They're going to stay around for a bit. These are going to be people who supported the ratification of the Constitution. So these are the folks at the Constitution who did not like the Articles of Confederation and wanted to change it from the very beginning, didn't want to just keep the Articles of Confederation, wanted to create a whole new government. These are folks that, as we're going to talk a little bit about later, are going to have some feelings about the national government and trade and things like that, people who supported them, etc. All right, so some of the most famous presidents, or famous Federalists, are going to be Alexander Hamilton. He was kind of one of the big leaders of the Federalist Party. All of these guys were actually. James Madison, we talked about him as the father of our Constitution, and really influential in letting us know what was going on during the Constitutional Convention. And finally, John Jay, who was he would later become the Attorney General of one of the first Attorney General. All of these guys were really important. They would go on to create what are called the Federalist Papers that we'll look a little bit more on Monday. And this was there was a bunch of them. There was over 70 of them that were printed in newspapers across the country to try to get people to support the Constitution. So there was a Federalist paper on why we needed the Great Compromise. There was a Federalist paper on the Three-Fifths Compromise. There's a Federalist paper on why we need one single executive. And these guys went a long way in working to get the Constitution eventually ratified. Spoiler alert, Constitution was ratified. All right, so why would we call these people Federalists? Number one, they're going to support the Constitution. And the Federalists are going to change and they're going to morph a little bit. But for right now, it's all about who supported and who didn't support the Constitution. All right, they felt the need. The biggest problem with the Articles of Confederation to a Federalist was we needed more political power to the national government. Remember, we talked about the Articles of Confederation was the power with the states, and they felt that was a big issue. They wanted to divide the power among three branches. We'll get talking about that probably on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And they wanted that one single executive. So these guys were really believed in the major components of the Constitution and really felt that this was the way that to make the government stronger, was the way to help use this new government to benefit the people. Okay, so anti-federalist. Well, and this is really kind of easy to remember. I always remember Federalist starts with F for the Constitution. Anti-Federalist has that A. They were against or they opposed the ratification of the Constitution. These were folks who went to the Constitutional Convention thinking, oh, we're just going to give a little tune-up to the Articles of Confederation, and they saw what was going on with the Constitution, and they felt that this was going too far. They felt that there was too much power given to the national government, that we were going off the rails, and many of them felt that they weren't even sent to the Constitutional Convention to do what they were doing. They felt that this was supposed to be just fixing up the Articles of Confederation. So some three famous anti-federalists: George Mason from Virginia, Patrick Henry from Virginia. George Mason was a strident states' rights person, same with Patrick Henry. These guys were also around during the Revolution, pretty strong leaders during that time period. They had worked under the Articles of Confederation. They had helped develop the Articles of Confederation, and they really felt that all it needed was a little bit of a kind of tune-up to get the Articles of Confederation to really be fully functioning for the government. Sam Adams was a guy that was very influential in the American Revolution with the Sons of Liberty and leading the Patriot cause. He felt that this was going too far, that basically we were getting another mini version of England. We were trading that tyrant from 3,000 miles away for a tyrant that could be, a couple hundred miles away. And he really felt that was doing a disservice to the American people, especially people who fought for the American Revolution, which, remember, 1787, American Revolution only ended 6 years ago. So there's still a big imprint of the American Revolution in America at this time. So, that should say what, not who. I'm going to change that real quick. Or why. There we go. Back here. Alright. So, why did the Anti-Federalists feel this way? At the end of the day, they were opposed to the Constitution. Why would they think that way? They felt that political power should belong to the states. They felt at the end of the day we should have a government that was more like the Articles of Confederation. They were willing to give up some power. Some of the things I talked about, adding some representatives, using the New Jersey plan, having those 3 representatives at present. Most of these folks are willing to do, but they wanted to really have some big-time checks on what the national government could do. They felt that in our government that Congress should be the most powerful because they had the most direct link to the people. As a matter of fact, in Congress, this is the only place where representatives are directly elected by the people. Especially in the House of Representatives. Remember, in the president, for president, we have the Electoral College, which is going to not directly elect people. Also, and one of the big things that's going to come down and really kind of shape how we actually ratify the Constitution is going to be this protection for a Bill of Rights. And it's really this that's going to kind of get the Constitution ratified, because the Federalists felt, or the Anti-Federalists felt rather, that there's a lot of stuff about what the government can do, but there's not a lot of stuff about what the government can't do. There's not a lot of stuff about what the government can't take away. And they were really worried about this, again, coming from a king and a parliament that they felt took away a lot of rights and took away a lot of freedoms. They wanted to make sure, and they even called for a Bill of Rights, or a list of things that people, the power of the people in this document, not just the power of the government. All right, that's our flip lesson for tonight. Most of you are going to get a good chance to start this in class today. If you don't finish it up, I will be here after school. You can work on it then. I'm going to definitely check it out on Monday to make sure it's done. All right, see you guys.